Jory, and this is Give Me 20 Minutes. It is Saturday morning, June 7th, here in Western New York and beyond. As I looked out my window this morning, it is going to be a glorious day here in Western New York. I have a feeling we're going to be facing a little bit more of the residue, the runoff, the smog, the whatever you want to call it from the Canadian wildfires that we've been dealing with the last few days here in Western New York. Got that smell in the air that we had last year or the year before, where you could really tell those were going on, coming down here, interfering with our sunshine. But like they say, you got to take the good with the bad. But we are expecting some great weather here today. In Buffalo, I have myself a co-ed touch football game in 4 hours, so I'm looking forward to finally playing in some good weather, but hopefully we won't be choking on the residue, the remnants once again, that is coming from up north in Canada. I'd like to thank everybody who has checked out this program so far. We are getting somewhat consistent with doing regular programs. I did one on Monday talking about the Honky Tonk Man winning the Intercontinental Championship from Ricky the Dragon Steamboat right here in Buffalo, New York. This is a big week when it comes to wrestling history in Buffalo, so I jumped on here once again today to talk about that and talk about a big event that took place 29 years ago. The final event at the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium. It took place once again on June 7th, 1996. I have a lot of thoughts, feelings, and opinions on that event. Tried to do as much research as possible to coincide with the knowledge and the memories that I had of that event, which we're going to get to here momentarily. But speaking of professional wrestling, we can't speak about professional wrestling without speaking. How many times can I use the word speak or speaking without speaking about Buffalo Championship Wrestling, which is coming back on Saturday, September 27th for another edition of the Big Fall Bash. This is going to be the Big Fall Bash number 3, and it's taking place at the Renaissance Italian Club in North Tonawanda, New York. We are doing a 6:30 p.m. bell time. For those of you that are new to Buffalo Championship Wrestling, you know, if you've went to the events last year, in the end of winter and in spring, we do events on Sunday afternoons, but in the fall, we go back to Saturday evening. So once again, Saturday evening, September 27th, there will be more information posted about this huge event in the coming weeks. So please make sure you're following Buffalo Championship Wrestling on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X at BCWWNY. If you could do me a huge favor, which I would really appreciate, go to YouTube, do it right now, and subscribe to at BCWWNY on YouTube. We're really trying to get that channel seen by a lot more people. Also, for purposes of this podcast, Give Me 20 Minutes, please go to at WNY Pasquale and subscribe to that YouTube channel as well. So I don't ask for much. I'm not asking you for money. I'm not asking you for any other kind of support. Just please go to those two channels and subscribe. If you're not following me on Instagram at WNY Pasquale, X at WNY Pasquale, you can see photos of my life, and I've been posting a lot of food photos in the stories. I had goals, I had dreams, I had aspirations of being one of those people that post every meal on Instagram and kind of share that out there, support local restaurants, get that information out there. But I don't have the patience to do that. I tried doing it for a little while. I did gain some traction, but I just don't have the time or the patience to do that. So if you check out my stories on my Instagram feed, you will see what I'm eating at the time. If I feel like it's Instagram worthy, some meals just don't make the cut. But we went to Johnny's. There's my cat in the background. Hello, buddy. We went to Johnny C's last night. A little bit of a low-key date night as we have a wedding to go to tonight. So there's going to be a lot of eating going on. So we went to Johnny C's, had a patty melt, which was out of this world. Had to throw the extra patty on there, get that extra protein in. It's going to be a long weekend, but it was delicious. So you can check that out on my Instagram feed. But now, Let's go back to 1996, June 7th, 1996, a huge event at the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium in downtown Buffalo. World Championship Wrestling partnered up with the Ilio DiPaolo Scholarship Fund and Children's Hospital of Buffalo to present a great night of live professional wrestling action. The event was emceed by Bob Kaczynski. So I recommend, if you're not friends with Bob on Facebook, if you're not following Bob on social media, he's got some great information, some great history about sports and other things that have gone on here in Western New York. And if you see his YouTube channel, he's got a lot of stuff surrounding this event. He was heavily involved with it, being involved with the DiPaolo family. Other media personalities, other sports luminaries in Buffalo were at the event as well, celebrating the final event at the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium. Wasn't a Sabres game, wasn't a Bryan Adams concert, wasn't a Bandits game. It was World Championship Wrestling. As you know, if you know anything about the history of professional wrestling in Buffalo, the Memorial Auditorium was a huge venue when it came to professional wrestling. Ilio DiPaolo, Dick the Destroyer Buyer, amongst others, headline cards at the Memorial Auditorium. When I was growing up, I talked about the first event that I ever went to back in 1986. So the Memorial Auditorium was a big event when it came to WWF wrestling. Other promotions have come through the Memorial Auditorium, put on events there, and WCW had the opportunity to do this at this point in time. It was pretty unique that WCW had the opportunity to do this event. I've heard some things, some scuttlebutt, some rumors that the DiPaolo family approached the WWF about doing the event. They couldn't work out the logistics, or maybe the WWF didn't want to do it. WWF didn't do that many hometown things at that point in time. They were more about the WWF brand, which is totally fine. A lot of independent promotions would work with charities and organizations on doing a local event. WCW at that time was doing whatever they could to break out of the stigma of being that wrestling promotion out of Atlanta, Georgia. They focused heavily on the Southeast, on the East Coast. They would do some bigger cities in the Midwest, some bigger cities out West. They would do Japan and other things like that. But they tried to break out of the stigma of just being in the Southeast of the United States. That's why they brought in guys like Hulk Hogan, like Randy Savage. They already had Sting. They had brought back Lex Luger. They had a new guy they referred to as the Giant. We'll talk more about that as we go to the results of the card. They had the Nasty Boys. They had Brutus Beefcake. They had Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So they were trying to appeal to more than just that Southeastern wrestling base. And WCW for years was horrible with marketing. They were horrible with merchandising. You hear a lot of their former wrestlers talk about how they didn't have a t-shirt, they didn't have an action figure, or if they did, they didn't see any money from it. So around 94, 95, when WCW got Hulk Hogan and they really tried to make a run at competing with the WWF, you saw more t-shirts, you saw more action figures, you saw trading cards, you saw the magazine, you saw more things to get them noticed, get them in the mainstream. Obviously, having Hulk Hogan along for the ride was huge in that. Hogan, was great at marketing. Hogan was known no matter what. Randy Savage, same thing, the Slim Jim connection. And WCW really tried to do what they could to get out there, to get noticed, to be more marketable. And their action figures were I'm trying to think of the word to say, but they were very good. They were inspired, I should say, by the WWF LJN figures that most of us wrestling fans who grew up in the 80s had. They were rubber. They were on the larger size, and I'm not exactly sure how many they had. Maybe they had like 12, 14, 16 in the line, but they were really nice looking. You would see them walk down the toy aisle. They would pop out at you. You'd see Hulk Hogan, of course, again, Randy Savage, Ric Flair, et cetera, et cetera. And that was a way just to get the kids back involved with what WCW was going on. At this point in time, we were starting to see the rise of WCW. Monday Nitro debuted the year before. WCW was trying to do, once again, what they could to get out of the Southeast. So why not go to a big wrestling town like Buffalo, New York, why not team up with the DiPaolo people? Why not team up with Children's Hospital to put on this great nostalgic event? And it really was a great night of nostalgia. I was a senior in high school at that point in time, getting ready to graduate, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. At this point in time, I really gravitated to wrestling a lot. You had WWF, WCW, ECW, and I was thinking to myself, could I be a professional wrestler at that point in time? I was wrestling in high school, so I think it was like, at that point, I was like 5'7". Now I think I'm like 5'6.5". I weighed about 185. I'm like, all right, a lot of time in the gym, make myself look a little more marketable. I could give this a run. And that's when I really gravitated to pro wrestling and said to myself, I want to do something in professional wrestling. Tried Niagara Community College. It wasn't for me. I was basically like the 13th grade for North Tonawanda High School. Saw all the same people. Didn't enjoy my experience there. Got intermingled with people from Wheatfield and Niagara Falls, who I would later become closer to because I worked at Tops on Niagara Falls Boulevard and a bunch of other connections there. So didn't like that, but decided I want to get involved in professional wrestling. And this was one of the events that really inspired me and really made me do so because, again, great night of nostalgia, great night of professional wrestling action, and the WCW/NWA hadn't been in Buffalo at the Auditorium since December 7th in 1989. I went to the event on September 30th in 1989, which was headlined by Ric Flair against Terry Funk. On the card was also, we had Lex Luger, who has a connection growing up in Orchard Park for a part of his life. You had the Road Warriors there, other stars. The event in December 7th of 1989, you had the Great Muta against Ric Flair in the main event. The Steiner brothers were there against Doom. Lex Luger once again on the card. So many talented wrestlers on the card. And at that point, I was really gravitating towards WCW/NWA over the WWF. So fast forwarding again to 1996, WCW coming to the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium to put on this tremendous event. Now, of course, I am getting the results from this event from historyofwwe.com. I will post that link below. Please, if you're an even casual wrestling fan, go to that website. You will see results from way, way back in the day. If you thought about something, I remember going to this event when I was 12 years old, but I want to find out more about it, you can do that by going there. It actually cleared up a lot of things that I had going on because I thought about, I went to this event and I saw this guy and I look back, no, I didn't. Maybe I misremembered that. So let's take a look at these results once again, courtesy of historyofwwe.com. Once again, June 7th, 1996, the attendance that they have listed, 14,082 paid, but a total of 14,852 in the building. You got to think a lot of comps were given out too to the Children's Hospital people, the people that were close with the DiPaolo family, anybody that in the media, they were given tickets. So that's why that number is a little bit different. But all this stuff has to be tracked properly because of the New York State Athletic Commission and the Department of New York State Taxation and Finance. So all of us wrestling promoters know that you have to tell them how many people are in the building to stay compliant with their rules and regulations. So let's talk about the card itself. A treat we got because it opened up with some Legends matches before we got into the modern day WCW matches. Let's go through these Legends matches really quick. Pee Wee Jones pinned Farmer Pete in a midgets match. Excuse me. Sorry if that term offends anybody, but back in 1996, we used the term midgets. I said it again. Sorry. And then from there, Gino Brito defeated the Missing Link. I had the privilege of teaming with the Missing Link at, I believe it was Shirkston Shores. We were underneath the tent, wrestled Go Time, Chris LaPlante, and his partner Derek. So that was a real big thrill for me, being able to team up with the Missing Link. I had so much fun in that match. It was a really great experience for me. Then Tony Parisi and Dominic DiNucci, no strangers to the Western New York area, defeated Bruiser Bedlam, formerly known as Johnny Canine, from right over the river up the road in Hamilton, Ontario, and his tag team partner, Cowboy Johnson. My apologies, not too familiar with Cowboy Johnson, but again, I am familiar with Bruiser Bedlam, Johnny Canine. Bruiser Bedlam went a big deal in Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain Wrestling back in the 90s. Do some research, Google it. You'll find out more about that. Excuse me while I take a drink. It's all that pollen in the air. I got to make sure that the pipes, the cords are finely lubricated. Now we get into the event itself. In the opening contest, Diamond Dallas Page defeated Alex Wright. WCW United States Champion Conan, yes, the one and only Conan, Mexican star, WCW mainstay, defeated Big Bubba, formerly known as the Big Boss Man, for those of you WWF fans that might be familiar with him back in the 80s and 90s. Then from there, the man from right down the road in Syracuse, New York, VK Wall Street, he was going by at the time, but we call him Michael Wall Street, defeated Joe Gomez. This was a big match. The Nasty Boys defeated the Public Enemy in a street fight when Brian Knobbs pinned Johnny Gunn. This was a very fun match, very ECW-like, a lot of plunder being used, if I can steal a term, from the late, great Dusty Rhodes. Very fun match, back and forth, but the fans were right behind the Nasty Boys, and the Nasty Boys got the victory with help from Bills quarterback Jim Kelly. Then from there, we had the WCW Television Championship on the line. I mentioned his connections to Orchard Park. The total package, Lex Luger, was back in Buffalo as he defeated Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Jim Duggan, a big fan favorite, always here in Buffalo. He, from right down the 90 in Glens Falls, New York, so we had a good match there. That's a good match. Again, if you see on the marquee professional wrestling coming to the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium, you see Lex Luger versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan, you're an old WWF fan, you're going to come out, check that out, and see what it's all about. We got into the double main event portion of the event. You saw the Macho Man Randy Savage, who had his father, Angelo Poffo, who was in the house. He was in Randy's corner, and he defeated Nature Boy Ric Flair, who actually had the Destroyer in his corner, beat him with a quick roll-up. Once again, this match not only profiled what WCW had going on at that point in time, but bringing the legends out like Angelo Poffo and the Destroyer really tied in the theme of the night. We had the current WCW with the Legends of the Odd, which is what made this event so special, which is what made this event so enjoyable and really brought together both generations and really showcased the history and the legends of the Auditorium to the new people that were in the building. Maybe they were just fans of WCW. Maybe they just wanted to check out a night of professional wrestling. Fast forward to the main event. We had some more stuff go on in the ring, some more acknowledgments, and then we had the WCW World Champion at the time, the Giant, Paul White, the Big Show. He defeated one half of the WCW Tag Team Champions, Sting, by disqualification when Lex Luger interfered. We had some different stuff going on at the time when it came to Sting and Lex Luger from a story perspective. So if you're not familiar, I recommend going back, watching some WCW from that area, finding out more about this from that 94 through 96 period before the NWO really popped off. They tried to do some different things, tried to do some unique things in order to get the fan base or get a new fan base. So, but little hint on that, WWE actually just uploaded and started a new YouTube channel, which is for WCW. I use that a lot. If I come home, I have like 10, 20 minutes to kill before I cook dinner or go out and cut the lawn or take our dog for a walk. I will pop on that YouTube channel. They posted some great content on that channel about WCW. But once again, I can't thank WCW, the Ilio DiPaolo Scholarship Fund, and Children's Hospital, along with Bob Kaczynski. Once again, Bob Kaczynski was integral when it came to this event. So thank you, Bob. And once again, please go check out his stuff on Facebook. Please go check out his stuff on YouTube if you want to find out more about this event. When I start to stutter, when I start to stammer, when I start to mumble like that, hold on, let me take another drink. that means it's time to get out of here for today. But I just wanted to go back and really bring focus on this event to people that might not be familiar with that huge event. Once again, last event taking place at the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium in 1996. I'm going to do more stuff like this. I have a binder filled with ticket stubs and event programs and things like that we'll cover. We'll get some more people involved in the program as well. But I advertise this podcast as Give Me 20 Minutes, and I am over the 20-minute time limit. But before I get out, once again, please make sure you go to the YouTube channel at WNY Pasquale. Please subscribe to that YouTube channel. For Buffalo Championship Wrestling, go to at BCWWNY on YouTube. Subscribe to that channel as well. Find me on Facebook. Find me on Instagram and X at WNY Pasquale and BCW at BCWWNY on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and X. But it's going to be a beautiful day here in Western New York. That's why I jumped on so early. Go outside, do something, enjoy the weather, and I'm going to talk to you back here again for another episode of 20 Minutes. I'm an idiot. Excuse me. So join me here once again for another episode of Give Me 20 Minutes. Thank you again so much for listening or watching. I will talk to you again very soon. Go Bills.